cut flower growers, flower farmers, and greenhouse professionals interested in learning about crops you just might want to add to your product mix in the near future. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and this tutorial continues a collection of videos and podcasts intended to help you select and produce amazing new cut flowers. The trend in cut flowers continues to gain speed, and producing the latest genetics and popular varieties is the best way to capitalize. I'm happy to be joined once again by two guests with years of cut flower experience, as well as production knowledge and market intel. Joan Mazat is the cut flower business manager at Ball Seed Company, and Bob Croft is a product technical manager with Sakata Seed America, and they both bring solid resources to the table when it comes to choosing and growing cuts. Our topic this time is Campanula, and specifically the Champion 2 series. New genetics often mean increased efficiencies and expanded market opportunities, and Champion 2 ticks both these boxes and more. I know Bob and Joan have much more to share because this can be a tricky crop to grow. So Joan, can you set the stage for why Campanula is high on your list of potential cut flowers to add to a mix? And then Bob, why don't you follow up with some overall thoughts on Campanula, and then jump into your tips and tricks for successfully growing Champion 2.
Oh yeah, I mean, Campanula, why would be on my list of things to add to the mix? It's so beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful, unique item. The flower form itself is so distinctively different than any other flower form. It's not a daisy type. It's just itself. It's so cool. And the reason I was kind of hoping and so thrilled that Bill and Bob that we can do this today, it's sometimes a challenging crop. If you're new, or actually even if you're a seasoned grower, a Campanula is not the easiest thing. I've heard reports of plants growing knee high, struggles with understanding its production, and so this is why it's so important to take such an interesting crop that has such great potential, but then yet let's share that knowledge with the growers on how to make that production work for them, and even if it's even year round, which a lot of people wouldn't even think that was possible. And the one question, Bob, everybody would have is it Campanula? Is it Campanula? Which one is it? So let's just jump in and learn all about this great crop.
Okay, great. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to talk about Campanula. We say Campanula. The main benefit of the Champion series, or what makes it kind of unique, is that traditionally Campanula has always been a biennial, so it was planted in the summer or the fall, and then it needed that cold winter to vernalize and then flower the next spring. Where with the Champion series, we basically annualized it so it can flower the same year from sowing, but under cooler temperatures, without the need for vernalization. So basically it is photoperiodic, so there is some definitely technical tips you need to grow it well. But it does have a very long vase life, which is very nice, usually up to 3 weeks. It's very durable. It ships very well, even though it may look delicate. It's very tough. So yeah, it's a wonderful crop. It also works well with snapdragon crops, so to grow alongside that. So,
Perfect.
so here we have a good overview of the crop schedule. Basically, Campanula Champion 2 is an improvement over the original Champion, in that it's a 1 week earlier to flower. It has a little bit more upright flowers, so they look at the consumer better in a bouquet. The plug stage, basically 5 weeks in a 288. The optimum germination temperature is 68 degrees constant for the first 4 days. That yields the best germination. Then basically you have to give it a short days in the plug germination stage through the entire germination phase and plug stage, basically less than 12 hours. And after transplanting, you have to also provide short day conditions, less than 12 hours. So you have basically 8 to 10 true leaves. And then at 8 to 10 true leaves, you need to initiate the flowers because it's an obligate long day plant. And then we recommend 6 weeks of long days to initiate the flowers and help elongate the flower stems. And then you can either turn the lights off or leave them on, it won't hurt. and then a couple weeks after stopping lighting, they will flower. So basically, the night interruption works well between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., or else one can extend the day length to 16 hours. The This is kind of a basic schedule for the northern hemisphere. Um, Basically, because of the cool temperature requirement, it may not be able to be grown year-round, but generally in the north you can grow it sowing in the fall and flowering in the winter to spring. So basically, under natural short days, from September to February would be when one would sow it without any need to worry about lighting or short days, except you have to be worried about light pollution from other seed crops if you're growing in the greenhouse. Then basically it's planted in the cut flower beds from October to March, in which you'd have to apply the artificial long days, because that's still under short day conditions in the north. And then they would naturally come into flower from January to June. Now, in areas where you have cool temperatures, they may be up in Canada or the northern upper Midwest, the Northeast, and the Northwest, you can purchase short day plugs from March to July, usually about an 8 to 9 week plug, the 128, and then you would not need to worry about lighting them for initiation because the day lengths would be long enough, and then they would come naturally flower for you. So in the first scenario, you need to light them to initiate, but nothing else. In the second scenario, you need to purchase short day plugs, and then nature will do the rest.
Yeah,
So
and the good news is I know at least our supplier Balticala is very well aware of those short date treatments necessary during that time frame. So that's a good advantage to the grower.
okay, and here we go. Just kind of run through quickly the germination stages. 288, again, as I said earlier, 68 degrees for the first 4 days, constant, provides the best emergence. It's pelleted seeds, so enough moisture to melt the pellet, and a light cover with vermiculite works well. Stage 2, you start to fertilize at 100 parts per million of nitrogen. You want to maintain 68 to 72 degrees to avoid rosette problems, which we'll talk about later. And again, maintain those short days, less than 12 hours, to prevent premature flowering. In stage 3, the seedlings are filling in. You want to maintain the EC, electrical conductivity, less than 1 at a 1 to 2 dilution. And we always find that calcium nitrate-based fertilizers work really well to build nice, strong, healthy seedlings without a lot of stretch and weak stems. And then here's an ideal plug. Usually 2 to 3 leaves is ideal to put into the cut flower bed. It does have Campanula has a strong taproot system, so you do not want to delay transplanting, because then you'll delay or cause too short of a flower stem, and you won't have a nice transition from the plug into the cut flower bed. Here's one germination technique I found is if you don't have a chamber and you live in kind of a warm area, this grower basically sowed the seed, watered it, and then covered it with white plastic. And they just left it in the greenhouse for 10 days, never touched it again, and they had beautiful germination. This is an area that actually is down in Colombia, where they have very warm days, cool nights, but just in this one environment with that plastic really worked well. Because every time seed trays are watered, you flush out oxygen. So by just watering it once, you give higher oxygen to the seed. And then here we see a plant that's been exposed to long days in the plug stage. You can see that it has already flower buds on it. So this will happen. Um, If they don't have a juvenile phase where they need so many certain amount of leaves to initiate, they will initiate from the very start. So very critical that you don't have light pollution, and you can provide those 12 hours or less of photo period.
So Bob, if someone would make a mistake, and let's pretend we run into this situation, Is there any salvaging a crop like this, or is it best just to discard and start again?
Yes, it's best to start again. I've had growers ask me if they can pinch it, and unfortunately, all the laterals are also initiated, so you may be able to sell it as a potted crop, but yeah, definitely you need to
Okay, so
really watch
let's
the photo
avoid
there.
let's avoid that.
Yes, yes. Okay, and this is over in the Netherlands. Just a technique one could use. They have machines, obviously, that go and sort the plugs. You could also do it by hand, or simply ask the transplanters to kind of select for uniformity. But definitely higher uniformity plugs gives you a tighter flowering window and less second quality plants. So you'll see this growers will kind of come back and transplant twice out of a tray. But obviously, getting the best germination, the best uniformity is going to be key, and for it to have a uniform crop. Here we see a good photo of an ideal plug. It's in a deep plug cell, so it doesn't have that root wrap, which is great because it does have a taproot system. And then at transplant, good drainage is very important. High in organic matter, full sun with good ventilation. I like to recommend raised beds, especially in clay soils, because it really helps those roots to penetrate into the soil and prevents that waterlogged soil and root rot. These high tunnels are ideal. Um, Many growers have these. Because of the cool crop temperatures, it doesn't really need to be heated, especially in coastal areas or cool summer areas. So it's a very economical crop to grow. You get good ventilation, and of course that little bit of shading from the tunnel keeps the sun from getting too strong and also helps elongate the flower stems. Plant spacing generally is 4 to 6 inches apart for single stem, which is recommended for greenhouses or under cover. Multi-stem can be done in the field. We have a less or a high tunnel where you have less cost per square foot. Um, it's basically you can use closer spacing under conditions of higher light, good air movement, and a rich soil. In lower light areas, you want to give it a little bit more space so you don't get too much stretch. And then basically optimum temperature is 55 to 60 degrees, but it will do well at higher temperatures as long as the nights are cooler. That's just simply optimum. You want to maintain about 0.7 to 1.0 millimos per centimeter. I guess I need to correct that on the slide. That's a mistake. It should be zero point 0.7. So, flower bud abortion, we find this happens if the tight temperatures are too cool. Um, we also see this sometimes when they use cyclical lighting. Cyclical lighting is where a grower will, in order to save money, will do 20 minutes light, 20 minutes off, 20 minutes on for 6 hours. So they're saving electricity basically, but under cool temperatures, especially like under 45 degrees with cyclical lighting, you often sometimes have this, the center bud will sometimes abort on you. So you just need to watch that. Boron deficiency. This is something that happens in many cut flower crops. Boron is responsible for keeping calcium in a soluble form. So basically, that you don't get the leaf. Calcium is important for leaf development and all those cell walls. So this is why you see edge burn on it, because you don't have the calcium to form those cell walls. You also see very stunted leaves that do not expand because calcium is required for leaf expansion. So yeah, Campanula does require sensitive to boron deficiency. So keeping your pH, especially under 6.5, is best, and supplying a quarter of a part per million in each irrigation. And because calcium is important for campanula production, you make sure you have a good balance of both, because too much calcium will also tie up the boron. And then support, yeah, you definitely need to support these because they grow up to 40 inches tall. Usually one layer support is enough. Being an obligate long day plant, you can basically light from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. We recommend 45 days to get sufficient height. You basically start when the plants have 8 to 10 true leaves. That's usually about 4 to 5 weeks after transplanting, depending on your climate. And if one wants to simply try this without having any manipulation with lights and photo period, if you sow it in mid-February, it will naturally go through the cycle without any need for photo period manipulation. So if you want to give it a try, this would be the time to do it. And just to mention lighting, the lighting of the plant will initiate in a couple of weeks. But the reason we ask you to light for 6 weeks is because that lighting, that long day condition helps elongate the flower stems so you get sufficient height. And with most cut flowers, I think most florists want anywhere from 28 to 30 inches, maybe 24 is minimum, but your first quality is going to be at least 30 inches tall. So basically, you want to make sure you can, you get a good transplant stage, so you don't, delay or tie up the roots too much. You don't get that root bounding, and then you get better uptake of nutrients and better stem length. And then rosetting. Rosetting, we often think of it with Lisianthus. It's basically a resting stage, kind of designed by nature. If conditions aren't right at transplanting or in the plug stage, they'll go into a dormancy stage in the hope that maybe the next year is going to be a better condition. So some of the plants will survive and reproduce the following year. But basically, this is primarily caused by excess high temperature in the plug stage or after transplanting. So basically, maintain less than 77 degrees Fahrenheit in the early stages to prevent this problem. So basically, you can keep it definitely below 82, and the night temperature below 72 would be best recommendation. And then here we see a nice rosetted plant here on the left. You can see there's no taproot development. This was done because of late transplanting. The plant was stressed. So this is why we recommend transplanting on time. And on the right here, we see a really nice healthy root system with some nice taproots growing. So everything is determined at the start, getting that good start with the right plug size, the correct transplanting time, those correct temperatures and lighting, all makes for a beautiful crop. And then I've seen this also. This is importance of good drainage. This is an area that have very sandy soil, which generally produces great crops. But the trouble is when you water it and it's all fine particles, you don't have any large pore spaces left. So the soil becomes very compact and lacks air. So it's good to add organic matter to this type of soil so you have a nice combination of large and small particles so that air is trapped in those large particles, large pore spaces after watering, which is why the raised beds help so much because the gravity helps pull that moisture further down into the soil for higher aeration. And then an ideal environment, of course, is going to be an outdoor condition or high tunnel with good air movement and cool temperatures. So again, it's a very economical crop to grow because it doesn't require much heating or a very sophisticated greenhouse. So it's ideal to grow in the summer, especially in the northern climates.
Bob, do you prefer an open field or in a high tunnel? Which is preferred?
Well, I think if you live in an arid area, maybe like the coastal California where you don't have summer rains,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably okay. But I think I would still put in some screening or some shade cloth because I think the light is so high often in those areas that you get too short of a stem.
Okay, okay. So
But yeah,
tunnels might be ideal though, particularly
mhm.
for our northern growers, the storms, thunderstorms, etc., rain damage.
Yeah, definitely. I think the high tunnel is the ideal condition for this.
Perfect.
And then here's an issue. One of the main diseases of Campanula is sclerotinia. It's also known as white mold, and it happens in areas of very high humidity or overwatering. So some growers are forced to they strip the bottom leaves off the bottom of the stem, the lower part of the stem, to increase air movement. This is only in areas where you have high humidity or just excess watering. So this again makes why is a good reason why the high tunnel works well, because you're preventing that excess moisture from rainstorms. This could be kind of labor intensive, so I would recommend wider spacing if you have this issue than rather having to do this labor intensive leaf stripping. So this is kind of one of the only major diseases I've seen with Campanula. It's a pretty tough plant and doesn't have much other issue um, with disease. And then harvesting is an interesting crop. Generally, the top flower opens first, and then you'll see the flowers open from the bottom up. So that's usually the stage when it's harvested is when the first flower opens on top. Usually, some people will wait till 2 to 3 buds are open, especially for bouquets. But it's a very nice crop for the consumer because you can ship it tight with just one or two open flowers, and all the other flowers will open in the vase with the great color. They will all color up nicely. So it's a really good crop for shipping or for long vase life for the consumer. And basically, it does have a latex in the stem, so we recommend that you kind of dip the stems in 100-degree water to kind of remove that latex to help improve water absorption. We do recommend treating with STS or the 1-MCP for ethylene because it is ethylene sensitive. There are, basically I've seen growers in the Netherlands simply just use the chlorine tablets in the water as the germicide at the start to keep it from having problems. And then putting in some sugar also helps extend the vase life. Basically, you can store it at 34 to 36 degrees for up to 3 days. And the consumer will receive up to 20 days in the vase, especially if they recut it every few days and change the water. And also adding flower food also is a good recommendation. It is a line flower, which is nice. So they generally sold in bunches of 5. And the high quality is going to get a premium price. Even though it is a line flower similar to snapdragons, it also can be used in these kind of nice bouquet here with roses and peonies. Add a little different look. It kind of is that child fairy tale look to it, the Campanula. You remember from years ago, the cup and saucer is kind of the common name for it. Um, but again, it can also be quite a beautiful crop to bring to market. Here we have on the right a beautiful crop of Campanula Champion 2 Deep Blue. And then on the left, this crop was grown, I believe this is August, so it was grown during the summer from a short day plug. So it's a versatile crop, has basically a beautiful kind of pastel colors. The main market is going to be from like spring through early to midsummer. That's the main market. But again, it is also grown year-round in some areas for bouquets because it adds that unique look to it and durability and vase life. So yeah, definitely give it a try. If you want to start off with mid-February, that's the easiest. It could also be grown along with snapdragons, which is nice because snapdragons are also a cool crop. But because of the lighting, you may need to go to a group that, like a snapdragon group that's maybe one more, higher, because that lighting will affect the timing of the snapdragon. But yeah, so appreciate it. Thank you for your time and hope it works well for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, to me, the message I hear is start it right, stay on time. Good cultural practices, follow the cookbook recipes, and I think success is yours.
It's awesome. It really, I mean, they are absolutely beautiful flowers. I I remember the name Cup and Saucer. As soon as you said it, I remembered hearing that. And yeah, the versatility I think is really a great selling point with these flowers. So Bob and Joan, thank you so much for all this information. I know the viewers and listeners appreciate your knowledge and how you take us through all the stages from germination to post harvest, and even some tips on how to sell it. I will put links to the ball seed cut flower page in the video description and show notes for folks to go and learn more about not just Campanula, but the full assortment. And if you like this installment, be sure to subscribe to the Tech on Demand podcast on your favorite app and find dozens of Tech on Demand videos on the Ball Seed YouTube channel. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and on behalf of Bob and the team at Sakata and Joan and her Ball Seed Cut Flower group, take care out there.